Good morning. The first step in the process of selecting a new representative from Michigan's 109th House District occurs on August 8th, when a primary election will decide who the Democratic candidate will be. This morning we'll meet the contenders, and it starts right now.
From TV6, this is the Ryan Report. Now here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, with the tragic death of Representative John Keevala, the state of Michigan began the process of scheduling elections to choose his replacement. The 109th district includes Alger, Luce, Schoolcraft, and most of Marquette County. At the filing deadline, 1 Republican and 4 Democrats had qualified to get their names on the ballot. The Republican candidate is Richard Rossway of Marquette. On the Democratic side, there were 4 candidates, and this morning we're going to give you a chance to meet each of them. Since Rossway is unopposed, he will not be part of today's report, but we do expect to talk with him and his Democratic opponent before the general election. The 4 Democrats are Sarah Cambenzi, currently a Marquette City Commissioner, Tom Curry, longtime supervisor of Limestone Township in Alger County, Joe DeRocha, a member of the Marquette County Board of Commissioners, and Jeremy Hosking, who has served as Upper Peninsula Regional Manager for Senator Stabenow. Over the last week, I interviewed each of the candidates separately, basically asking each of them the same questions. And this morning, you'll hear their answers. Some answers have been edited because of time limitations. We started off by asking each of them why they decided to enter the race for the 109th House seat.
I think the biggest reason is I feel that Michigan right now is a state that needs to invest in people again. I think we've lost sight of that, whether it's our public schools, skilled labor, our nurses. I feel like we're a state that used to pride ourselves on our people. Education, skilled labor, I mean, they're what made us and our economy a huge success. And we've drifted away from that. And I'd like to see us get back to a state that, instead of giving huge tax breaks to these large corporations, that we invest in people, training, education, and even our small businesses to make sure that our communities are surviving.
Well, Don, with my 15 plus years of political experience, I've been very successful at economic development and job creation. So it was a natural thing for me. I started in the Planning Commission, worked my way up as supervisor of a township on Western Marquette County, and then on the county board, and then was elected vice chair of the county. So this is the next step.
I had been speaking with John Keevala for about 2.5 years, and he was coaching me on how to get along in Lansing, because it's a different ball game down there than it is in the local political scene. I'd been speaking with John, like I say, for 2.5 years, and he was coaching me how to get along, who to work with, who not to bother with. So when I got to Lansing, I could hit the ground running. I was planning on announcing in September and campaigning in November and on. And as everybody knows, things happened, and we had to announce early. Whirlwind campaign, pretty much. And I'm in this to win it. I want to do the best work for the UP that I possibly can. I've got a lot of political experience behind me. I've got a lot of business experience behind me, and a lot of life experience behind me. And I want to take those experiences, combine them together, and do good things for the 109th and the Upper Peninsula.
I decided to enter the 109th State House race because I'm very concerned with what's going on in our public education system right now. Of course, jobs in the economy are very important up here. We never really boom, but we don't completely bust. And then, of course, the social safety net is very important to many different demographics up here. So those are some of the reasons why I decided to run for office.
State Representative Keevala was recognized for his ability to build relationships in Lansing that allowed him to work effectively with other representatives and senators on both sides of the political aisle. He was also instrumental in bringing the UP delegation together to work for issues important to the region. We asked each of the candidates if they plan to use that same approach.
Absolutely, Don. He did a fantastic job reaching across the aisle as well. I've always been, I've been a private business, in private business in Marquette County for over 34 years. I had to be able to reach across and touch people and try to resolve issues, and I'm very good at bringing people together. In fact, when I look back at the Township Community Lunch, I was able to lobby Rio Tinto to come to Humboldt Township, created 750 construction jobs, 450 good high-quality mining jobs. I was able to bring, whether it was the KBIC Indian community together with Rio Tinto or other entities that were having issues, at that community lunch, and bringing people together is what I do best.
Absolutely, and that's why I've been speaking with John for the time that I have, is to learn how he was able to accomplish that. We've got way too much political bickering going on right now, statewide and federally, and we need to pull it together so that we get the best results for our district. If a lot of the candidates might run down and vote party line all the way, and that won't accomplish anything if they get on their rail and ride it. Either side, it doesn't accomplish anything. We need to come together in the middle, and I am totally willing to work across the aisle with people and get good results for the UP.
Absolutely, I'll continue that approach, and I do feel like I'll be able to be effective at it. You know, my philosophy when working with people for the last 10 years, first for former State Representative Steve Lindbergh and most recently U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow, was we had to work with everybody that came through the door because I was an official staff member. So it didn't matter what your political stripe was. We should always be working towards, you know, a common goal and the common interest of as many folks as possible. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I'm running to represent everybody in the 109th State House District.
Absolutely. And one thing I've noticed traveling around the 109th is that people will stop me and they will say, you know, he was a good man, he was a good leader because of what you just said. He was able to bridge that gap and, you know, find commonalities to work with, you know, the sides that might have an opposing view or might have an opposing issue. And, you know, the UP, you know, people ask me, it's so different than downstate. People aren't loyal to a party. People are loyal to a candidate, and that's what they were with John. And I think his strength was his ability to work with everyone. And, you know, I got to see that when I was down in Lansing in March. I actually stopped in to one of the sessions, and he was working the floor both sides. And, you know, it showed in his legislation and certainly what people thought of him.
When we return, we'll talk with the candidates about their thoughts on jobs and economic developments. Continuing our interviews with the 109th District Democratic candidates, our conversation turned to jobs and economic development. It's an issue which is a concern for many UP communities. We asked if creating jobs would be a priority for them, and we also asked if they felt the region should continue to use the area's natural resources for job creation.
Jobs, you know, it's very important in the Upper Peninsula. We all know that it's very difficult to stay and raise a family here with a, you know, with a sustaining wage where you can actually raise a family. But we should be building on what we already have. We should be building on our natural resources, whether that's timber and minerals, and of course, you know, tourism plays a role in that. But we have a university, we have a hospital system up here that, you know, certainly plays a very important role in the regional economy, and we should continue to advocate, you know, to make sure that these institutions are receiving the proper funding and support that they need because they are job producers in the area as well. Mining has played a, you know, a very important role in the development of our regional economy, and it will continue to play an important role. But we should be looking at every opportunity, and even if those are smaller opportunities coming in, small businesses, you know, growing the economy that way as well.
I feel that we can't forget, you know, our roots, our past, and we've heard a lot of, you know, economic professionals come in and tell us that, you know, the UP has a great problem that many areas would like to have. You know, we've got our beauty, we've got our tourism, but we've also got, you know, some strong industries that provide us our good paying jobs, that have potential to give spin-off industries and that can actually help us grow, you know, our small businesses that locate around those good jobs. I mean, I think we have the recipe for success. It's just going out and going after these things and really saying that, you know, we want the next technology, the next development, the next, everything here in our communities. A lot of people, when the Empire was shutting down last year, said we're out of ore. The ore body isn't that good, and that's simply not true. I mean, in 2008, we were set to have the Mustang pellet developed here, for the new arc furnaces in our steel factories. We saw that move to Minnesota last year, and I think that we need to step up and remember that, this is our core industry. We do need to fight for these things. We need to work with other legislators and our governor to make sure that if we need to help with those investments as a state, that we're standing up and asking for that.
Absolutely. There's three things I plan on doing. Jobs, quality jobs, economic development, which are somewhat tied together, and I'd like to see affordable health care for all residents in Michigan. That's a real problem we're going to be faced with. My father was a 38-year underground iron miner. Yourself worked for now Cliffs Natural Resources. I think we were a little bit weak when it comes to going after businesses to continue in mineral-based economic development. We just allowed Cliffs to move into Ohio with a $700 million development. That development should have been here in the Upper Peninsula. That development should have been here for all of the individuals that have been displaced. We should have been reaching out to figure out how to have the CEO of Cliffs have that operation here.
Jobs in this area have been eroding. The wages have been eroding. We need to bring good, steady jobs to the Upper Peninsula, long-term jobs. Fix our infrastructure, put our construction workers to work, create good, high-paying jobs that will be here long-term for the Upper Peninsula. We need to continue to develop our natural resources and protect our environment at the same time. And I'll take this back to the business part of it. Our natural resources, such as the mines and the other industries, the lumber mills and the paper mills, the jobs that they create are what makes our middle class thrive. Local businesses, small business can't thrive if the middle class doesn't have the buying power. So we need to increase the production or maintain our production of the natural resources so that the workers can have good paying jobs, so that they can buy products and services from the small businesses and make the entire community thrive.
We had more questions for the candidates, and we'll get to those after we take a break for these messages. Well, this morning we're talking with the 4 Democratic candidates for the 109th State House seat. One will be selected to appear on the ballot in the general election on November 7th. All of the candidates have previous or current political involvement, and I asked each of them to talk about their government or other life experiences that would qualify them to represent this area in the state legislature.
Well, I feel I've been an elected official now for 6 years, first on the Marquette Charter Commission, and as well as my second term now as a city commissioner in Marquette. I'm a public school employee of almost 10 years, and I remember growing up, born and raised here in Marquette, what happened when our minds idled. My father has a small business, and I remember the effect of that, on my childhood, and certainly, the possibility of not being able to stay here. So I think, my unique mix of already being an elected official, already having to make those tough votes, stand my ground, be outspoken, and remember that I actually work for the people and not myself or not a special interest. I feel like I'm well versed and ready to step right into this position.
Or my record will be my voice. I've done a lot of things from, I'm the first township supervisor ever to reactivate an abandoned rail corridor, petitioned the Surface Transportation Board in Chicago to make that happen. That's brought $50,000 annual income. I wrote the contract with a 5% escalation clause that brings a lot of revenue to the local community to provide additional services. I can go on, but I don't think we have the time for the number of things that we've created over there that creates community benefits. I lobbied Governor Granholm to obtain the former ELF site. That's turned into a $500,000 community benefit for local township in western Marquette County.
I was born in Illinois. I was raised in Florida. I moved to the Upper Peninsula in 1988 because it's a beautiful place. I have traveled to 49 different states, and whenever I travel, I go to local government meetings and see what the issues are where they are, and see how they're handling those issues, and see what they're doing to their people and for their people. And I want to throw away the twos, keep the fours, and do what's best for our district. I don't know of any of the other candidates who have done that. You know, they're all pretty UP-centric, which is not a bad thing, but getting the experience from out in the rest of the country to see what's going to be coming our way is important. I also have business experience. I own two small businesses. I've got a lot of work experience. I've worked all different kinds of jobs in my life, from laborers to executive positions and administrative positions. And I think my total life experience makes me the most well-rounded candidate for this race.
Well, you know, I grew up in a poor family. There was some tragedy early on in my life, so I certainly understand, you know, what it's like to fall on hard times. But as long as you work hard and the community is there to support you, you can still be very, very successful. And, you know, certainly my public education that I had growing up in the Negaunee Public Schools certainly played an integral role of how I view things and how I like to work with people. And moving forward, you know, we need to make sure that, you know, there are programs that are in place to help people when they do fall on hard times.
When we return, we'll talk with the candidates about the priorities they will bring to Lansing if they're elected. Back in 2 minutes. If elected to serve in the State House of Representatives, those who are seeking this seat will be called upon to make decisions on a variety of issues. I asked them to talk about the issues they feel will be their highest priority.
Jobs, Veterans Affairs is very high on my list. I'm a veteran, my father's a veteran, my son is a veteran. He served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, and he got out about 2 years ago, and he cannot buy insurance for his family in the state that he's chosen to live. That's sickening. We need to improve our performance to our veterans and for our veterans. The people have come 100% changed since I got out. I got out during the Vietnam era. My son got out during Iraq, and it's a total different environment on the people side. Government has a long way to come to make up for it.
Well, tax fairness is a big deal. Quality jobs, again, back to jobs. And anytime you have quality jobs in your community and economic development, schools become funded. They get funded by economic development and tax base. I'm a little troubled with the attack on the schools and the way that's gone on, and we need to fix that as well.
In March, when I was in Lansing, I really saw John fighting hard for closing that dark store tax loop, and I think, you know, that needs to be the #1 priority, as well as our mines, as well as education. There are a lot of people also concerned with what's going to happen with Medicaid, you know, and a lot of that depends on what takes place at the federal level. But it's going to be extremely important in this election, as well as in 2018, who we elect. You know, if their priorities aren't the priorities that matter most to people, healthcare, education, you know, our iron ore mines here, it's going to be a pivotal time. And if we don't get those leaders in place that understand the importance of these things and how hard we have to fight for it right now, it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Public education is a big priority of mine. I had a great public school education, and I feel like teachers are not getting the resources they need for the classroom. I also think there is less security in the education profession than in the past, just because there have been many different attempts to change teacher retirement and stuff like that. And the other big thing is the social safety net. You know, as I'm out knocking on doors, people are talking to me about healthcare, and they're talking to me about the Medicaid expansion. And if you look at the 4 counties I'm running to represent, there's approximately 4,800 people that are covered under the Medicaid expansion, and across the whole Upper Peninsula, it's about 16,000 folks. This is a very important program that it touches the lives of so many people in our district.
Our final question to each of the candidates was, why should voters choose them? Here are some excerpts from their answers.
They should vote for me because I'm the most well-rounded, experienced candidate that's out there. My willingness to work across the aisle is paramount. When anybody would get elected to our township board as a new person on the board, I'd shake their hand and say, congratulations, you just won an election. Now take the R or the D that you have on your hat, throw it in the trash can, and put the P up there because you're now a public servant. And start working for the people. Don't care what party they are, what their status in life is, we're working for the people. And I will carry that on down to Lansing when I get there.
I think the voters should vote for me on Tuesday, August 8th when they go to the polls, because I have devoted my whole professional career, the last 10 years, right out of college, to public service. I am the only candidate running who has ever worked in the legislative branch of government, whether it be state or federal, and I think I have the most qualifications in that regard. Most people don't realize this, but when a representative gets elected, they go down to representative training school after a general election in a normal election cycle. That's not going to happen this time, and I think I'm the one that has the most qualifications to hit the ground running in Lansing.
I think, you know, one reason would be my experience. Being that elected official, it puts you in a realm that, you know that when you go into tough votes, you're not going to make friends. You know when you have to work with people, it's a give and take. There's compromise, and I feel like, you know, I have that experience. I have the background, the training, the education in terms of understanding state and local government. You know, my master's degree was from Northern in public administration. I want to make sure that I am the voice of the people, and you know, that simply is my platform.
I have a track record, Don, of getting things done, and if you want to get things done, you vote for Joe on August 8th.
I'll be back with a final thought after we take this break. Well, this morning we've given you an opportunity to meet the 4 Democratic candidates who are seeking to represent the 109th District in the Michigan House of Representatives. If you're a resident of that district, you can vote on August 8th to select which one of these individuals will face off against the lone Republican in the race, Richard Rosway, on November 7th. I hope the information we provided this morning will help you in making that choice. I want to remind you again that our show is regularly featured on UpperMichiganSource.com. Today's show will be available starting at about noon tomorrow. The Today Show is about ready to roll. That's our time for this week. I hope we can look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.